Ta-da! Wait. Ta-da! Good morning. Today we've got my buddy's Camaro. This is a Holley Sniper conversion. Well, I say conversion. It's got the Holley Sniper X-Flow kit. And he's having some issues with it. It was on the car. It was running on a small block engine. He converted a big block. And now, whenever you turn the key on, this thing dumps about a half a gallon of fuel out. And hydrolocks the engine. So, that engine's probably got maybe 3 miles on it. It's not really good to be hydrolocking your engine. We don't know what happened, but we're going to try to diagnose. We're not going to try. We're going to diagnose what's going on with this. He's already sent the Sniper system back to Holley. They tested it. They sent it back, said everything's good. The problem is with the car. So I'm going to take y'all along while we try to diagnose this. Well, not try. We're going to diagnose this. We're going to figure out what in the world's going on. We're going to get this bad boy running again where this man can actually drive his car this summer. So let's quit flapping our gums and get to it. I'm going to do the resolution to the flooding problem. So spoiler alert, the issue is the ignition box. Okay, you've got to change a feature in your MSD 6AL ignition box to where it doesn't do the engine RPM verification procedure. Okay, and I'll get into that in the front part of this video. So I hate it whenever you're searching around on the interweb trying to help out with some solutions. Holley Tech Line was no help, so I'm going to go right to the solution right at the beginning of the video so that you can get out and get on the road. Alright, so we don't hydrolock this engine. I'm going to take the unit off. It's not bolted down to the motor. And we're going to cycle the key, and I'm going to show exactly what this is doing. Hopefully this will help somebody else out. We're either going to see that we've got something wrong with the car that's triggering this thing to do a double shot or multiple prime shot, possibly caused by some sort of ignition interference or something. Holley had all kinds of things that they say was wrong with the car causing it. But we're going to rule all that out. If that happens to be what it is, fantastic, the man will be running. If that's not what it is and it's actually the unit itself, well, then we'll get it fixed and the man will have his car running. So what I want to do is I'm actually going to set this unit down in a pan, and we're going to hook up the main power, or the main harness, which that has all the leads, all the wires in it for triggering it, starting it, and in theory, I mean, it should run on that, but we don't want the car to run. I don't even really want the ignition to fire, so I'm going to see if I can't set a catch pan underneath this thing for testing, because we do not, I mean, do not want to flood this thing. I'm just going to use a drip pan. I've already wiped it off because I don't want any dirt or anything to fall down in this motor. Well, now we need a gasket. I'm going to set that up there. We're going to set that in there. Make sure we don't hurt any of his cables or anything. So we're just going to disconnect all that. Make sure we don't mess up our coolant temperature wire. Alright. So now, excuse me guys, I'm going to hook up the battery cable, and we're going to cycle the key and see what happens. Of course, ain't nothing going to happen until I plug this in. And oxygen sensor, let's see. We need the 7-wire connector. I think it's 7, no, it's 10-wire connector that we're going to plug in. Good Lord, I guess I need to put my glasses on. All right. Wow, I don't have anything. So let's see what our handheld says. That's interesting. We have no power to our unit. That is because I don't have the right section hooked up. Let's see here. So let's run this thing around here. Let's see what happens. Are you kidding me? All right, we're going to turn it off and cycle it again. All right, now if you look in here, hopefully you can see it. It filled up the bores, and there is so much fuel that just came out of that thing. So we have no idea why we're getting such a really strong pump shot first thing on that. Now the key is still on, and if it didn't have so much damn fuel in it, we'd actually be able to try to start it. So let's see if we can figure out how to get into this thing. Let's go into tuning, go into advanced. Man, this thing is being sluggish. And ignition, let's go to advanced fuel, cranking fuel. Let's see, engine coolant enrichment. Somewhere in here is a setting for pump shot or prime. Let's see, was it under idle? Ramp down. Let's see, start up and spark. Nope, it's not there. I may have to go online and get a little more information on this thing. Basic fuel. Alright, fuel prime. And we're going to go ahead and disable this. Okay, for some reason it won't allow me. There it goes. Alright, I don't know why it won't take the setting. There it goes. Alright, so it's disabled. Try to go back to the main menu. And let's cycle the key and see if we have a prime. Y'all, I did the same thing again. So we have the prime disabled on the car, and it still is just flooding the engine with a pump shot. So we're going to disconnect this plug, which has the tachometer wire on it. We're going to hit it one more time. Jiminy Christmas. I mean, look at this, folks. Why in the hell is that thing putting out so much fuel? Alright, so the next thing I want to do is, for a quick diagnosis, I actually have a friend that has another Holley Sniper system. And I'm going to go ahead, take the fuel line off, take the plug out of this. I'm going to put on this other system. We're going to set it on here, do the same thing. We're going to see if that thing actually does the same. If it doesn't do the same, then we have a quick diagnosis that there's something faulty with this unit. Okay? Now, if it does the same thing, then we're going to dig into the wiring on this thing and see what in the world could be causing this thing to prime like that. It is just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so off camera, because I was dealing with a lot of raw fuel, I swapped this out for a smaller Sniper system, brand new, straight out of the box, the handheld and the unit itself. So we hit the key, and sure enough, it does the same exact thing. So apparently Holley knows what they're talking about. We have something in the car that's triggering this thing, that's making this thing just do just an incredible amount of pump shot. So bear with me. I'm going to go ahead and get this unit back off of there, put the original one back on, which I have it over here drying off. And we're going to set it back up in that tray. We're going to dig into the main harness, because I don't have the tachometer or anything hooked up to it right now. We're going to trace these wires back and see what in the world is causing this thing to trigger such a big pump prime. And as soon as we figure it out, I'll put that at the very first thing in this video. Alrighty, like any self-respecting redneck is not going to do, we're going to go ahead and start looking over our wiring, because by putting a different unit on it, programming the handheld and everything, complete different unit, it's actually doing the same exact thing. So the car is actually going to have some sort of issue that is causing that thing to pulse and have it send multiple pump shots. Now, the car does have MSD ignition, and I am noticing that the tachometer output from the CD box is supposed to go into the ignition adapter, and that is supposed to go into the violet and green. Now, I have no idea what that ignition adapter is. So what we're going to do is I'm going to dig into the car, and we're going to find out if that is hooked up correctly. So we need to see that if that ignition box is indeed hooked into the violet and dark green wire coming from the ignition box. Or I'm sorry, the violet green wire going to the fuel injection unit, but the tachometer wire or tachometer output from the CD box actually going to the fuel injection. I'll get it right here in just a minute. So the first thing I got to do is, we have got a bunch of zip ties. This was all done from the first time, the original installation, but we're going to go ahead and make sure we don't have any kind of a weird crossover or something like that. And maybe this was done after the big block was put in. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm going to cut all this loose so I can dig in here. See if we can't get a first-hand look on who's hooked to who and just what in the world is going on with this thing. And the first thing I see, I'm going to set these down over here, is this is for auxiliary stuff. So we can just put that out of the way. But when I come in here, I find the blue and violet twist, and it's dropping into this piece of loom here, and it does not have anything else accompanying it. But when I turn the corner, it is actually running right next to the magnetic pickup that appears to be coming from the distributor. Now, I don't think that would have anything to do with it. We strip it back. We do have some sort of connector here. And we've got a green wire coming out. So we're going to have to actually pull a certain portion of the interior out of this car. Just because the ignition box, oh, what else do we have wrapped up in here with it? So we got a ground wire, and then we've also got another, some sort of connector. So we go from green to whatever that is, and now I'm going to have to see if I can't find this inside the car. I believe this right here, that goes to the heater control valve, so we're going to split that off. But I'm tempted to just go ahead, disconnect this wire, separate it from the system, go ahead and set everything in place, and let's see if that thing gives us a really big pump shot again. So stand by, I'm going to get it rigged back up. Alright, so here we go again. I've got the, it's supposed to have an output from the CDI box, and you're supposed to have the tachometer output going into the unit itself. I've got that disconnected. I've got the fuel line run back to it. I've got it sitting in its bucket still. We're going to cycle the ignition, and we're going to see if this thing does the flooding issue. And it is still present. Shoot. Well, no, it's not. Just my fuel line's leaking. Okay. Let's tighten that up and give it another go. So hang on just a minute. Well, you guys are not going to believe this. This is actually a classic example of installation error. So, in the instance of the CD box, okay, so I come into the car, the box goes on a bracket up inside the dash. Wait a minute, what do we have here? Okay, we've got an MSD digital 6AL. That ignition box right there has an engine RPM verification feature. What that does is when you turn the key on, it runs the tachometer up to what the set rev limiter is. So what it's doing is the ignition box is triggering the daggone EFI system to 7,000 RPM, which is what the tachometer is set at, and that is why that damn thing is flooded. So, problem solved. Installation error of actually the ignition box. Nothing to do with the fuel injection unit. So there are videos out there from Holley themselves, even though we sent the unit back, okay, their own tech guys failed to mention that the verification, engine RPM verification setting in the ignition box may be causing that flooding issue on start. So let me save you the grief. I just happened to hit on a video from Holley, of all places, of what exactly the issue is. So a lot of time, a lot of crap could have been saved if somebody at Holley just had their stuff together. Now, when you go from carburetor to fuel injection, these are really good units. I don't have a whole lot of experience with Sniper, so this has been an experience for me. The owner of the car, I'm going to go over it with him. I'm going to go ahead and bolt this thing on. The motor is still green. It's probably been driven maybe 10-15 miles. So I'm going to fire this thing up. I'm going to pull it out, turn it around, and bring it back in. So that way all the exhaust is on the outside. Then we're going to put the rest of the inside together. We're going to do some settings for initial startup on this. Make sure everything is taking settings on it. And then call the owner and give him the option to either come get the car, or we'll take it out, we'll drive it, and just see how it does. See if there's any issues or anything that come up that need to be dealt with. Now, I would like to get the harness to hook that up to a computer. I'm no computer nerd or anything like that. I just want to learn. So I may go ahead and get a harness. I may download the stuff, the hardware from Holley, just to see if I can go in there and figure out the data logging and all that kind of crap. But anyways, here's what we got. I'm going to go ahead, get it out of its dump bucket, get this thing bolted on, just kind of get the stuff tied back where we don't have anything burn up, and see if this thing will start.